You know, one of the most powerful things we have as we get older is experience. We've been through things, challenges, joys, losses, milestones, and we've learned to trust our gut. But sometimes, even with all that wisdom, it's easy to overlook the quiet signals our body sends us when something isn't right. We brush it off, tell ourselves it's nothing, or we just don't want to be. Sometimes the smallest signs are actually your body's way of waving a red flag, asking for help. And knowing what to look for, knowing what not to ignore, that can make all the difference. It could save your independence, your health, even your life. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 physical symptoms that you should never ignore. These are not vague or dramatic examples, these are the real signs doctors and emergency professionals watch for. The kind of signs that mean it's time to go to the hospital, no waiting, no, I'll see how I feel in the morning. Now, before we dive in, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Comment below and share your city, I always enjoy hearing from you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tips like these. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. Point 1. Slurred speech or facial drooping. Now this is one of those signs that a lot of people try to brush off. Maybe you're sitting at the kitchen table, reading the paper or sipping your coffee, and suddenly you notice that your words feel a little off. Maybe your speech sounds slurred, or you try to smile and one side of your mouth just doesn't quite move the way it should. Or maybe you raise your arm, and it feels weaker than usual, or it just doesn't want to lift at all. These are not signs to ignore. In fact, they're some of the most important warning signs your body can give you, signs that you could be having a stroke. And with strokes, time is everything. Literally every minute counts. Doctors have a saying, time is brain. That means with every minute that passes during a stroke, brain cells are dying, brain cells that affect how you speak, move, think, and live your daily life. A lot of older adults think, oh, I'll just lie down for a bit, see if it passes, but please, don't do that. If your words suddenly come out jumbled, or your face doesn't look the same on both sides, or you feel a strange weakness on one side of your body, call for help right away. Don't wait to see if it goes away. Don't try to sleep it off. Get someone to call 911 or go straight to the emergency room. There's a simple way to remember the signs of a stroke, it's called FAST. F for face, is one side drooping? A for arms, can you lift both, or does one drift down? S for speech, are your words slurred or strange? T for time, if you see any of these signs, it's time to call 911. This isn't about being dramatic, it's about being smart. I've heard so many stories of people who got help quickly and made a full recovery. And sadly, I've also heard the other kind, where waiting too long made things much worse than they needed to be. So remember, if something feels off with your speech, your face, or your movement, don't wait. Act fast. It could mean the difference between a quick recovery and a lifelong struggle. Point 2. Sudden chest tightness or pain. Now let's talk about something that too many people ignore, chest pain. If you suddenly feel a tightness, pressure, or pain in your chest, that's not something to wait on. I know it can be tempting to think it's just indigestion or maybe a little anxiety, especially if the pain isn't sharp or dramatic. But even a mild, nagging feeling in your chest could be your heart trying to tell you something important. For older adults, heart attacks don't always look like they do in the movies. It's not always someone clutching their chest and falling over. Sometimes, it's a dull ache. Sometimes, it feels like pressure or squeezing. Sometimes, it's just this weird feeling that something's not quite right. And believe me, your body knows. You might also feel pain in your shoulders, arms, neck, or jaw. You might feel suddenly tired or a little dizzy. Or maybe you just feel short of breath even when you're not doing anything. These signs can be easy to brush off. I've heard people say, I thought it was just gas, or I didn't want to make a scene. But here's the thing, it's better to go in and find out it's nothing than to wait and find out it was everything. One thing you should know is that women and older adults often experience heart attack symptoms differently than younger people. The signs can be much more subtle. That's why listening to your body is so important. If that feeling in your chest is new, if it doesn't go away, or if it's paired with symptoms like sweating, nausea, or trouble breathing, it's time to act. Don't try to wait it out. Call 911 or get to the emergency room. I always tell people, your heart doesn't care what time it is. It doesn't care if you have a doctor's appointment next week. If something feels wrong, it's worth checking. No one's going to think you're overreacting. And even if it turns out to be something small, at least you know for sure, and that peace of mind is worth it. Next time you feel something off in your chest, please don't guess. Trust yourself enough to take it seriously. That decision could save your life. Point 3, shortness of breath without any real effort. Let's talk about something that can sneak up on you, feeling out of breath for no clear reason. Now, we all get winded now and then, going upstairs, carrying groceries, walking uphill, that's pretty normal. But if you're sitting still, maybe just watching TV or reading a book, and suddenly you feel like you can't catch your breath, that's something you shouldn't ignore. This kind of sudden breathlessness, especially when you haven't been moving around, can be a red flag. It could mean something serious is going on with your lungs, your heart, or even a blood clot in your lungs, something called a pulmonary embolism. And all of those need medical attention right away. I know it's easy to think, maybe I'm just tired, or I'll feel better after I lie down, but please, don't assume. Especially if you're short of breath and it doesn't go away, or if it gets worse quickly. Your body is telling you something important, and it's doing it in the only way it knows how. One thing a lot of people don't realize is that as we age, our lungs and heart already work a little harder. That's natural. But when the effort to breathe becomes noticeable, when you feel like just getting from one room to another wears you out, or when you suddenly feel like you're gasping even while sitting still, that's not just aging. That's your body raising a red flag. And listen, this doesn't mean you have to panic. It means you need to take action. If it's hard to breathe, especially if there's chest pain, dizziness, or your lips or fingertips look pale or bluish, don't wait. Go to the ER. Let me give you a little tip here. If your breathing ever wakes you up at night or if lying down makes it worse, that can also be a sign your heart or lungs need help. It's not just stress or a bad dream. These are things that matter. Point 4, sudden confusion or disorientation. Now this is one of those signs that can catch people off guard, not just the person it's happening to, but their family too. If you or someone you love suddenly becomes confused, forgets familiar things, or seems disoriented, like not knowing what day it is, where they are, or even what they were just doing, it's not just a senior moment. It's something that needs to be taken seriously. We all forget little things now and then. That's normal. But when the confusion comes on quickly, and it's not typical for you, that's your brain's way of saying something might be wrong. And in older adults, this is often one of the very first signs that the body is in trouble. It could be a stroke, an infection, low oxygen, or even a reaction to a new medication. And you know what? Sometimes something as simple as a urinary tract infection, something you might not even feel, can cause serious mental confusion in seniors. I know that sounds surprising, but it happens more than people realize. A lot of folks ignore it at first. They think, maybe I'm just tired, or it's been a long day. But if the confusion is noticeable, if you find yourself repeating things, struggling to find the right words, getting lost in your own home, or mixing up names and faces, don't brush it off. That's the time to call someone or get to a doctor as soon as possible. I've heard families say, they were fine yesterday, and that's exactly the point. When someone suddenly isn't acting like themselves, it's a sign that something has changed, and often, the brain is the first place it shows up. And here's something important, even if the confusion clears up, that doesn't mean the problem is gone. It could come back or be a sign of something deeper going on. So it's always better to get it checked out. You know your own mind better than anyone. If something doesn't feel right, if you're not thinking clearly or something seems off, don't wait it out. Get help. Because early treatment can fix what's wrong before it becomes something more serious. Point 5. Severe or sudden abdominal pain. Let's talk about something that can be really tricky, abdominal pain. Now we've all had a stomach ache at some point. Maybe you ate something that didn't sit right or felt a little bloated after a heavy meal. That's normal. But what we're talking about here is sharp, severe, or sudden pain in your belly that you can't explain, pain that feels different from anything you've felt before. That kind of pain is your body's way of saying, hey, something's wrong. Especially for older adults, abdominal pain can be the sign of something serious, like appendicitis, pancreatitis, a ruptured ulcer, or even internal bleeding. And here's the thing, sometimes the symptoms aren't dramatic. You might not even have a fever or visible swelling. You might just feel off, or suddenly have pain that stops you in your tracks. And I want to say this clearly, if the pain is getting worse, if it's stabbing, or if you feel nausea, vomiting, or dizziness along with it, you need to go to the hospital right away. Don't wait and see. Don't hope it goes away after some rest or an antacid. Time really matters here. I know many people try to tough it out. Especially older folks who grew up with the mindset of pushing through pain. But this isn't about being tough. This is about being smart and giving your body the care it needs before something small turns into something life-threatening. There are also situations where the intestines can get blocked or twisted, especially in seniors. That kind of issue can move fast and cause serious harm if it isn't caught early. And sometimes, pain in the belly can even be related to problems with your heart or other organs, not just the stomach. So here's the bottom line, if the pain hits suddenly and feels different, or if it keeps coming back stronger, don't ignore it. Don't wait overnight. Don't try to sleep it off. This is one of those signs where getting checked quickly can make all the difference. You've trusted your body all your life. And when it tells you something this loud and this clearly, listen. Point 6. Persistent vomiting or vomiting blood. Now let's talk about something that people often brush off, thinking it's just a little stomach bug, vomiting. Most of the time, when you throw up, it's uncomfortable but not serious. Maybe it's something you ate, or a 24-hour virus. But when vomiting doesn't stop, or worse, when there's blood in it, that's when it's time to stop guessing and go straight to the hospital. Persistent vomiting, especially in older adults, can lead to dangerous dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and even kidney problems. But when there's blood involved, it becomes a real emergency. It might be bright red, or it might look dark and grainy, almost like coffee grounds. Either way, that's not something to wait on. That kind of bleeding could come from a torn esophagus, a bleeding ulcer, or other serious problems in your digestive tract. And sometimes, it's triggered by something you didn't even know was causing harm, like long-term use of over-the-counter pain medicine, or a condition that's been silently developing over time. I've heard people say, I thought it was just something I ate, or I was embarrassed to make a fuss. But let me be honest with you, vomiting blood is never normal. Even a small amount is your body's way of throwing up a red flag, literally. And vomiting that keeps happening, even without blood, can still be serious. If you can't keep down food, water, or medication, your body will start to struggle fast, especially as you get older. Seniors lose fluids quicker than younger folks, and the risks add up fast. It doesn't matter if it's late at night or early in the morning, if you're throwing up repeatedly, or you see signs of blood, don't wait for a doctor's appointment. Go straight to the emergency room. Let the professionals figure it out. That's their job. Your job is to listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Your health isn't something to be shy about. You deserve to feel well, and if something like this happens, taking action right away can protect your life. Point 7. High fever with a stiff neck and sensitivity to light. Let's talk about something that sounds simple at first, a fever. We've all had fevers before. It's usually your body's way of fighting off an infection. But when a fever shows up with a stiff neck, a bad headache, and you find yourself squinting or uncomfortable around bright lights, that's not just a cold or the flu. That could be a sign of something much more serious, like meningitis. Meningitis is an infection that causes swelling around the brain and spinal cord. And while it's more common in younger people, older adults can absolutely get it too, especially if their immune system is already dealing with other issues. The problem is, when meningitis hits, it can move fast. You might feel fine in the morning, and by the afternoon, be too sick to even stand. Now here's what you should watch out for. If you or someone you love has a high fever, we're talking over 101 degrees Fahrenheit, and also can't move their neck easily, has a pounding headache, or feels weirdly uncomfortable with light, don't wait it out. That's your body's emergency signal. Some people also experience confusion, nausea, vomiting, or just this overwhelming sense that something is really wrong. And it's not just discomfort, it's your central nervous system under attack. That's why these signs deserve fast action, not guesswork. I know it's tempting to lie down, drink some fluids, and hope for the best, especially when going to the hospital feels like a big effort. But this is one of those cases where every hour matters. The sooner you start treatment, the better your chances of full recovery. Even if it's not meningitis, these symptoms could point to other serious infections or conditions. The key here is simple: fever plus stiff neck plus light sensitivity equals go get help. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. You've taken care of others your whole life. Now, this is about taking care of yourself with the same love and urgency. Your health is worth it, and the people who care about you would agree. They want you here, strong and safe. Now that we've gone through these 7 warning signs, I hope you feel a little more prepared, not scared, but aware. Because the truth is, when you know what to look out for, you're in control. And that's a powerful thing, especially as we get older. And before we end, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you learned today that really stood out? Or maybe one sign you hadn't thought about before. I read every comment, and your stories help others feel seen and supported too. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, stay alert, and never stop listening to what your body is trying to tell you. We'll see you in the next video. Stay well.